All right, put yourself in the shoes of the Russo brothers for a second. You've got this absolutely massive responsibility. You need to introduce Doctor Doom, establish him as the undisputed, most powerful villain in the entire multiverse, and completely replace the guy you've been building up for years, Kang the Conqueror. In the real kicker, you have to make it look like this huge pivot was your brilliant master plan the entire time. Sounds literally impossible, right? Well, looking closer at the lore, there's actually a theory that solves this perfectly. Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into the evidence behind what might just be the greatest heist in multiversal history. So let's just get right into it. What if everything Kang has done, everything he's built, was just straight up plagiarized? What if Dr. Doom has already met Kang, and every single move Kang made was essentially him just desperately copying Doom's homework? Just think about how fascinating that would be. Because when we actually look at the evidence, we can pretty much prove that Kang might be the biggest fraud in the entire timeline. This brings us right back to that massive real-world dilemma facing the studio. Like, how do you sideline an established Big Bab without making it feel super cheap to the audience? You don't just erase him, right? You completely recontextualize him. You reveal that Kang was never actually the ultimate architect of the multiverse. He was just some guy who peeked at the end of the script and tried to replicate the true master's design. This elegantly solves that real-world problem by turning a behind-the-scenes pivot into an absolute mind-blowing narrative twist. So, here's our docket of evidence for today. First, solving the villain problem. Then, copying the time platform, stolen armor, and castles. How the TVA is basically just Battleworld. And finally, the ultimate multiverse paradox. Okay, starting with number 1, solving the villain problem. To figure out who the true threat actually is, we really have to look back at the climax of Loki Season 2. Which leads us perfectly into our second point, copying the time platform. This is our very first piece of hard physical evidence. We need to look at the actual technology they're using to navigate all of this. Notice the wild visual parallels here. Think back to the unified portal tech used by the Council of Kangs in the Quantumania post-credit scene. They all carry this exact same aesthetic, operating on this singular system. But then, look at Dr. Doom's highly guarded time platform from the comic books. It resembles Kang's tech incredibly closely, almost undeniably so. You know, in the comics, Doom knows that messing with time leads to absolute chaos. I mean, he even failed to save his godchild Valeria after repeated attempts. So he keeps this platform hidden and very rarely uses it. The fact that Kang, Reed Richards, and Doom are all so entangled in the comics is definitely no coincidence. Kang's entire aesthetic is borrowing heavily, maybe entirely, from Doom's original designs. Moving on to number 3, stolen armor and castles. Because the technological plagiarism absolutely does not stop at time platforms, it reveals an undeniable pattern of visual theft. Just look at these visual clues. For years, people have theorized that the rings from Shang-Chi were somehow connected to Kang. But really think about it for a second. Kang's armor is glossy, it's highly polished, super futuristic. The Shang-Chi rings, they're medieval, heavy, colorless, and gothic. They completely clash with Kang's vibe. But you know who carries that exact medieval, steel, gothic aesthetic? Dr. Doom. What if the circular energy bands on Kang's suit in Quantumania are actually just Kang trying to emulate the tech of those rings? What if the rings actually belong to Doom, sending a multiversal signal right back to him, and Kang just designed his suit to copy that power? And it's not just the clothes. Even He Who Remains Citadel at the end of time, just look at the architecture. It's a dark, colorless, gothic castle. It doesn't look like anything a futuristic Kang variant would build. It looks exactly like Doom's castle. I really challenge you to look at this overarching aesthetic. Do the ancient rings, the dark gothic castles, the heavy steel motifs, do those really look like they belong to a sleek, futuristic scientist from the 31st century? Or do they look like the signature style of a magical medieval dictator? I mean, the visual evidence is practically screaming at us here. All right, section 4. The TVA is just Battleworld. If stealing clothes and castles was bad, just wait until you see how Kang stole the entire structural foundation of his empire. This brilliantly illustrates the ultimate ripoff. Let's map this out one-to-one. On one hand, you have He Who Remains creating a secret, isolated reality, the TVA, separated completely from the rest of the multiverse. On the other hand, in the Secret Wars comics, Dr. Doom creates his own secret, isolated reality called Battleworld. Both of these realms are ruled by a singular, unquestioned, godlike authority. It is literally the same blueprint. And the really crucial point is how they actually maintain this control.
He Who Remains took these variants, completely wiped their memories of their past lives, and turned them into loyal TVA agents who essentially worship him and the Timekeepers. I mean, he even selectively wiped the memory of Ravonna Renslayer, the person closest to him. And guess what? This is the exact playbook Dr. Doom uses on Battleworld. Every single resident there has their memory of the old universe completely wiped clean. They live in total obedience, worshiping God Emperor Doom, completely oblivious to what existed before. Starting to sound a little familiar?
It gets crazier. Even the power sources running these empires are identical. Dr. Doom hides a character named Molecule Man to act as the literal battery for Battleworld. He sustains Doom's entire reality and gives him his power. And what does He Who Remains use? The temporal loom. The loom is the battery for the TVA, maintaining the sacred timeline and just automatically pruning dangerous branches. Conceptually, the temporal loom is literally just Kang's mechanical version of Molecule Man. And the similarities get even darker. Remember that bizarre, honestly hideous transformation Kang forces upon MODOK in Quantumania, turning him into this monstrous weapon while MODOK deludes himself into thinking he's happy? Well, this gross mutilation tactic is pulled straight from Doom's Battleworld playbook. When Doom conquers his enemies, he doesn't just kill them, he humiliates them. He radically transforms them to serve his world. He literally turns people into a giant wall to keep out zombies, or, get this, turns them into an actual sun. Kang is really just out here doing a discount version of Doom's horrific punishments. So how is this even possible? How could Kang copy Doom before Doom even takes the cinematic stage? Well, that brings us to Section 5, the ultimate multiverse paradox. To really understand this, we have to look at the bootstrap paradox. Basically, this is a time loop with no true beginning. Step 1. In the future, Dr. Doom actually wins the multiversal war and creates Battleworld. Step 2. Because He Who Remains sits at the literal end of time, he looks ahead and sees Doom sitting on his throne doing all of this. And then Step 3. Realizing this is the absolute only way to maintain order and stop Doom, He Who Remains copies Doom's entire setup, the memory wipes, the isolated reality, the gothic aesthetic, all of it, to create the TVA. He basically copied the winner's strategy just to preemptively stop him. But hey, because time travel makes things endlessly complicated, we do have to acknowledge the exact opposite possibility. What if, in the upcoming Doomsday film, Dr. Doom wipes out the Council of Kangs, finds He Who Remains Citadel, studies the TVA, and thinks, you know what? Creating an isolated timeline with memory-wiped subjects is actually a fantastic idea. He might use Kang's TVA as the very blueprint to build Battleworld. Time travel makes it pretty much impossible to know who originally started the loop. Honestly, that's the beauty of it. But whether Doom copied Kang or, as the overwhelming visual and structural evidence really suggests, Kang just copied Doom, the studio has all the data and detail they need right now. They can completely retcon Kang's legacy without ignoring it. They can seamlessly reveal that Kang was, at the end of the day, just a fraud, a pretender who saw the ultimate power of Dr. Doom's secret wars and desperately tried to build a cheap imitation just to save himself. It perfectly sidelines Kang while instantly elevating Doom to the ultimate threat level. As we've seen today, the evidence for this multiversal heist is just massive. The aesthetics, the memory wiping, the isolated realities, it all points right back to one original architect. So, I leave you with this final thought to ponder before the next era of cinematic movies kicks off. Did Kang ever actually invent anything? Or are we about to find out that the rules of the multiverse have always belonged to Dr. Doom? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the timeline, and I'll catch you on the next one.